Hi there, welcome to Lux Attic. Today we'd like to show you the top 20 best Japanese whiskey brands. Relatively new to the Western world, Japanese whiskey is a fine drink the inhabitants of the land of the rising sun have enjoyed for over 100 years. Its distinctive taste often involves notes of fruit, cereal, vanilla and malted barley, making it one of the most popular choices when it comes to spirits today. But don't expect that to come cheap, because it won't. Japanese whiskey is available for big bucks. Its quality ingredients, proper maturation and the cost of importing it outside Japan are all good reasons for that high price. Also, since Japanese whiskey makers were only used to their country's demand, a high global demand has now led to shortage, pushing prices even higher. Before we dive into the best Japanese whiskey brands, let's take a look at how it all started. History of Japanese whiskey. The early days of whiskey crafting in Japan go back as far as 1870, but it's only in the 1920s when the commercial production began. That's when Shinjiro Tori, a liquor importer, decided to open a distillery in Yamazaki, the first ever in the country. A helping hand came from Masataka Taketsuru, who had accumulated 3 years' experience learning the craft in Scotland, and was now Tori's top executive. Later on, in 1934, Taketsuru went on and opened his own distillery in Hokkaido. Called Yoichi Distillery, it's going strong to this day. While the distillery kept its original name over the years, the company behind became Nica. Tori's original company became Suntory, and it's also one of the big names in today's Japanese whiskey industry. As time went on, Japanese whiskey production went through ups and downs. The 1970s and the 1980s saw a huge rise in global demand, which led to new names and labels spawn in Japan. Popularity of Japanese whiskey dropped for a while before making a comeback in recent times. Today, there are quite a few established whiskey distilleries in Japan, and these are the best Japanese whiskey brands, in our opinion. 20. Hatazaki. Made by the Miyakiyo distillery on the coast of the Seto Inland Sea, the Hatazaki whiskey is smooth, easy, elegant and comes either as blend or pure malt. The former has delicate floral notes while the latter seems more rounded, with malted cereals, dried fruit and a very pleasant honey fragrance. Hatazaki whiskey draws its name from the oldest lighthouse in Japan and is the result of the endless curiosity of master distiller and blender Kamiyo Yonezawa. 19. Sakurao. Sakurao Distillery has established itself on the Japanese whiskey scene back in 1918 in the town of Sakurao in Hatsukaichi, Hiroshima, accumulating over 100 years of experience and knowledge in whiskey making since then. They offer a range of drinks with 3 distinct styles. There's the Sakurao first release cask strength which boasts notes of sweet vanilla with smoky undertones. Then there's the single malt Tagauchi, with notes of fresh apples, apricot and sweet marmalade. The third one is the Tagauchi blend, which comes in beer and sake cask finish, among others. 18. Enso. Enso takes advantage of the water, flora and the climate to create a unique whiskey. The pure waters of Japan contribute a lot, while the porous Japanese oak barrels add their character and flavor that set this whiskey apart. Maturation is greatly helped by the temperature fluctuations across Japan's 4 seasons. The end result features a medium body with fiery tangerine and spice with a long concentrated finish. 17. Kanosuke. Based right next to Japan's longest white sand beach, Fukushima, the Kanosuke distillery is a young one, its story starting only in 2018. Despite the short history, it has already won several awards, making it worth mentioning. Their whiskey collection comes in 6 variations, among which the newborn Kanosuke Distillery Limited bottle has won the 3rd place in the Japanese new make category at the Tokyo Whiskey and Spirits competition last year. 16. Karuizawa. Operating between 1955 and 2011, Karuizawa Distillery has brought to life some wonderful whiskies along the years. Recently, a collection of rare bottles of Karuizawa has surfaced and managed to raise record-breaking prices at an auction, putting the name into the minds of many whiskey drinkers all over the world. 15. Shinshu. Founded back in 1985 by Masataka Taketsuru, Shinshu is known to be the highest distillery in Japan, located in the Japanese Alps, where it benefits of moderate humidity and an endless supply of pure water. Their Iwai tradition is a perfect example of the brand's single malts and single grain whiskies, boasting notes of brine, peppercorn, almond, malt and peat smoke. 14. Ohishi. Currently led by the 6th generation master distiller Kazunori Oishi, the Ohishi distillery brings to life soft and elegant rice whiskies. Some of the best expressions of their collection include the sherry cask with dried fruits notes, nutmeg and Christmas cake, the lighter and softer brandy cask and an Isla cask with a nice sublime smokiness with notes of marshmallow and vanilla. 13. Kirin. Kirin is a well-known beverage company, especially for their Japanese beer, but that's not everything they have to offer. They also run the Kirin Distillery, also known as Fujigatemba Distillery, near Mount Fuji and produces small batch blends and 17-year single malts. Their Kirin Fuji Sanroku 50 proof used to be their most popular blend. Why used? Because due to the whiskey shortage, it was discontinued. 12. Tokonoka. Produced by the White Oak Distillery, a small, family-run company, one of the oldest in Japan and the first one to ever receive a whiskey production license back in 1919, Tokonoka brings an original blend to whiskey lovers around the world. Besides the original blend with sweet notes of chocolate, maple syrup and floral malt, they also offer the black, which is a half-half blend of malt and grain whiskies aged in bourbon, sherry and virgin oak casks. The black is rich and boasts notes of mango, pineapple, ginger and black pepper, with a honey and vanilla finish. 11. Kuriyoshi. Located at the foothills of Mount Daisen in the Tottori Prefecture, the Kuriyoshi distillery makes use of the pure spring water of the area to create the fine whiskies they're well known for. The small distillery offers a range of 5 styles, with the Kuriyoshi as their number 1. It's a balanced whiskey, with combines bitterness with sweet notes of raisins, nuts and vanilla. 10. The Chita. Wearing the name of the Chita Peninsula, where it's also located, the Chita distillery brings forward clean, medium and heavy whiskies by combining corn grain and continuous multiple column distillation. Their flagship is the Chita single grain whiskey, a smooth and refined drink boasting a bright gold color and hints of mint and deep honey, with a clean, clear finish. 9. Suntory. Founded by Shinjiro Tori, Suntory is a name synonymous to the art of Japanese whiskey. Inspired from the Scottish whiskey, Suntory manages to add the essence of his country into their blends. Suntory is an umbrella company that holds other names such as Yamazaki and Hakushu. We'll tell you a bit about them below, but it also has its own Suntory whiskey Toki whiskey which brings together honey, basil and green apple on the nose, with a fruity and spicy aftertaste and a sweet finish with notes of vanilla oak, ginger and white pepper. 8. Miyagikyo. Owned by Nikka Whiskey, the Miyagikyo distillery produces a single malt whiskey that showcases the influence of a valley in the northern mountains of the Miyagi prefecture where it's located. Their whiskies are characterized by soft, floral notes and some of the recommended choices are their 15-year-old single malt and the apple brandy finished. 7. Yoichi. Yoichi is part of the same company that owns Miyagikyo, Nikka Whiskey. It's based in Hokkaido, which has the privilege of possessing similar environmental characteristics as Scotland. They offer premium able-bodied malts with a bold character, refined peaty notes and a subtle salty hint from the Ishikari Bay's sea breeze. Their best offerings are the 15-year-old peated single malt and the 20-year-old single malt. 6. Hakushu. As we mentioned earlier, Hakushu is one of the distilleries owned by the Suntory Company, and they're well known for their 12, 18 and 25-year-old single malts. Distilled from 100% malted barley dried over peat fire, their whiskies have a delicious smoky flavor. If you're a fan of that, your best bet would be the Hakushu heavily peated. Mind the price, though. 5. Akashi. With a history going just a few decades back to 1984, the White Oak Distillery offers their single malts and blends whiskies under the name Akashi. Despite the late launch, Akashi is now well known for their whiskies, especially their best expressions like the Akashi White Oak 5 Sherry Cask Single Malt. Multi-layered, this whiskey brings a deep but balanced flavor, blending sweet notes of brown sugar and cherry with brine and spice. 4. Chichibu. Among Japan's recent launched distilleries, Chichibu was founded by Ichiro Okudo in 2008 in a valley nearby the city of Saitama, where the maturation process is influenced by the harsh winters and hot summers. Offering small batch single malts means their whiskies are limited edition only, so you might need to pay an extra to find a bottle. When it comes choices, the best recommendations would be Ichiro's Malt Chichibu, the peated 2015 cask strength, and Ichiro's Malt Chichibu on the way single malt. 3. Nica. Nica whiskey was founded back in 1940 by Masataka Taketsuru and owns several other brands. Their own, Nica whiskey from the barrel and Nica coffee, are very well known, benefiting from their founders' apprenticeships at several Scottish distilleries during the early 1900s. Nica whiskey from the barrel, the most prized of the two, produces single malt and grain whiskey, a full-bodied and rich whiskey with lovely notes of sherry, cinnamon, umami, orange zest and a smoke flavor. The Nica coffee comes in coffee grain and coffee malt versions, both made in traditional coffee stills, the first continuous still patented in the world. The process gives the whiskey a very rich and creamy texture. 2. Hibiki. Part of the same Suntory company we mentioned several times already, Hibiki is one of the most awarded distilleries from the land of the rising sun, offering only the finest of Japanese blends. Their expressions, 4 in total, are considered some of the best whiskies on the planet. The Japanese Harmony brings a sweet honey-like flavor with white chocolate and candied orange peel. Combining marmalade and dark chocolate for a slightly bitter taste, there's the Master's Select. Their aged options, particularly the Hibiki 21-year and the 30-year, are some of the most well-regarded in the world, boasting rich flavors of sandalwood, honeycomb and dried apricot. 1. Yamazaki. Yamazaki is the name that started it all, as the oldest distillery in Japan, near Kyoto, at the convergence of the rivers Katsura, Uji, and Kizu. Yamazaki continues to experiment with newer stills and barrels in a quest to offer the finest Japanese whiskies. The brand's top vintages are already legendary around the world for their rich and unique character, full texture and delicious complexity. Despite the high price, the limited edition Yamazaki 25-year-old single malt aged in sherry casks is a stunning choice, with its deep mix of marmalade, coffee and cocoa notes. Another very good choice as well, but one that will quickly empty your pockets, is the Yamazaki 18-year-old single malt. For something more accessible but still offering an amazing taste, try their 12-year-old, which offers notes of coconut, cranberry, butter, with a long finish. Here you are. The best of the best when it comes to Japanese whiskey. Brands old and new that manage to offer exquisite flavors and a unique character to make you forget about Western drinks, at least for a while. We hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to click that like button, leave a comment, and of course, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.